Today marks the release of Fast and Furious 10 or Fast X, and now that the movie is here is my spoiler-filled thoughts. Fast X is not the best in the franchise, but it certainly isn't the worst either. This movie ranks right in the middle for me personally, and my updated and extended ranking is out now. Go check it out. My favorite aspects of this movie, for starters, is that it is not a save-the-world movie like the last 5 movies have been. While it's not a save-the-world movie, the element of chaos and disruption is higher than it's ever been, both internally and externally. I like how it focuses on the outcomes of Fast 5, which is my favorite in the franchise. Jason Momoa is a fantastic villain as Dante and does a much better job as an antagonist than I anticipated. Many other reviewers compare him to the Joker of the Fast franchise, which is 100% accurate. There's even a moment in the movie that I was not expecting, which was extremely disturbing, but also kind of funny because of the way he acted it out. He certainly made this movie what it is and is the reason I would tell somebody they had to go see it. You can see where they are going with the future of this franchise towards an endgame scenario with bringing people back as soon as they had brought back Giselle at the end of this movie. So I'm sure eventually they will bring back Brian, Mr. Nobody, Elena, and who knows who else. My hope though is Jesse. Dante is starting to create a family of his own by the end of this movie, so I can imagine that the final fight in the entire series would be a car war between Dante's villain family and Dom's hero family, and I think Dom would essentially be what Tony Stark was to the Avengers in Endgame. What I did not like about this movie is that for being almost 2.5 hours, it felt rushed and packed, but also somewhat boring all at once, which I don't even know how that's possible. I feel like without Dante and Jason Momoa's acting in this movie, it would have been incredibly boring with anyone else in that role. In the second act of the film, all the way through to the end, there are constant 20-minute segments of the team in different areas with their own little missions, but they are all on the wanted list, so they have to do these missions while trying to remain incredibly stealthy. Along with that, it just jumps around way too much from team to team. When people compare this to Infinity War, I see where they are coming from. I just feel like the execution of a split team in Infinity War was much better and less choppy. Another element that I wasn't a fan of is that the movie has an extremely serious tone to it, which is kind of new to the Fast and Furious franchise. There's typical, usual banter, but it's not as funny as it usually has been, especially between Roman and Tej. They've always had banter, but in this movie, it seemed like, for whatever reason, they had beef in real life, and it just didn't work out the way I thought it would, and it was almost like they just didn't want to be around each other at all, which sucks because I've always liked their dynamic. They definitely try to take this movie way too seriously, but when you have the typical fast stunts that you've had for the past 10 to 12 years, once it got to the saving the world aspect, it's kind of hard to take anything seriously, and that is the main reason as to why I put it in the middle tier of my total rankings. While it might come off that I'm going harder on this movie than lighter on this movie, I still did enjoy it. It's hard for me to not enjoy these movies just because if you sit back and watch and just anticipate everything not making sense, it's just a fun time at the movies. And there's nothing wrong with that. Much like how Black Adam wasn't the best superhero movie, it was still a fun time and just a good little escape, which is my favorite part of the movies, is going away to escape. Whether it's in a comedy, an action, a romantic, a musical, anything. Every movie is an escape for somebody, and that's what I love most about these movies. So it is in my middle tier ranking again, like I said. That extended ranking and updated ranking is out now, so go ahead and check it out. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this movie and what your favorite and least favorite moments were. And when you check out my ranking, go ahead and let me know your personal rankings as well. Thank you, and see you at the movies.